Okay. Welcome. Wow, the PA works tonight. Welcome to North Austin Photographer Society meeting. This is a competition meeting. We have a lot of entries in kind of a unique competition in that we have 2 images for each presenter, so we'll be going through those. I'd like to do announcements right now before we get started into that. Let's see. Thursday after next, I will be speaking on macro photography. And then in a couple of weeks, I'm going to ask Clay to put out a message asking for new competition themes for 2024. So we can get started on what we want to do then, so we can get some presenters that tie to competitions. Clay, do you have anything?
As an officer that served for a number of years, like Bill and Ed here, we want to encourage you to step forward and be part of the team so that you can get involved more with the club. So we're going to be nominating officers in the coming months. We have our election at the end of October, November, at the beginning of November, so that they can be, you can have new officers starting in January. So don't be shy. Come and talk to any one of us who's currently on board. We have a number of positions, which also you can be a volunteer on the committee. For example, the program committee, Stephen is the coordinator, but he really is doing double duty because he's our treasurer, and he really would welcome some help or someone to take over the main role with the software. So we also need a vice president. We also would, any officer is, or any position is open for nomination. So don't be shy. Give back to the club, be a participating member.
Yeah, if the club is going to sustain itself, we need participation, and we need to have good succession plan so that as people move on from a position, we have someone to take over for them. Stephen, are you ready to go?
Yeah, I'm ready to go.
Here you go, sir.
Is this thing on?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
All right. Tonight's competition theme was fix it and post. We're gonna go intermediate. We're gonna try to go, it might be a little sped up because there's like 60 images to go through. 30 times 2. So we might move a little quickly through that. And then for the advanced, he didn't actually put the critique in with the images. I have them printed out. So if you're an advanced and you want, what I'll do is I'll try to get everybody's email and I'll send that out to you maybe this weekend. I think I might have some time Sunday. But anyway, and yeah, like Clay was saying too, I can really use an understudy for competition. So if anybody wants to step up and be an understudy, then we could do that. And I already got a volunteer, Ty. All right. And for next competition, I already got one. I don't know if Charles is on there or not. I know he wanted to do this one, but I already had 3. So I need 2 more judges, which is next one is open theme. So anyway, if you want to volunteer, just email me. So yeah, let's go ahead and start the show. First one is Cowboy Ruckus. So you can see the after and before. I think these are in order of edited and then the original. So This one is varsity sign colored. Varsity sign colored. That's the original. Spider. Edited. Unedited. March to the volcano. Blue. Permeation. A funny moment. All right. So now we'll go through the critiques. So just if it's yours, shout it out.
I'll claim this one. Nicely done with the sky and the road leading off with leading lines. You've got even closer. Can you hear me now? We'll try this one. Okay. There's leading lines just kind of leading off into the oblivion. The cowboy seems to be pointing in that direction. There are distractions in the field here that kind of get my attention, draw my attention away from it, though the creator removed some with a crop. There's still stuff that draws my attention. And part of the cropping pushed the cowboy to the edge of the image. Colors and saturation are nicely done. So here's that original image. There's a stick that could have been picked up and moved in the foreground. There's the extra space that could have really made you feel a little more comfortable about the cowboy behind him that was lost as part of the crop. Go ahead, Stephen.
Varsity sign colored.
Okay, that one's mine. So the original is basically, it's just a nice documentary picture of a sign. It just documents that it's there. I was kind of, actually, overall, I have to say the creativity of some of the images in the competition tonight are just fantastic. So I want to applaud everybody for being creative. And I see that in this one. It's a great ghost image, shifted up and left makes a world of difference. The sign takes on a life of its own. It's very dynamic now, very colorful. So I thought it was a fun image and great creativity.
Yeah. Spider.
All right, this one's mine. And so I'm going to sort of echo what Patrick said. I was very impressed with the editing that was exhibited in a lot of these images in both the basic and the intermediate categories. So lots of fun. I thought everybody really embraced the idea, and so kudos to everybody. In this particular case, let's go to the before real quick. So I thought the maker did a very successful job with this image in that the spider is stuck between a couple things that aren't very interesting, and in this particular case, what we care about is, first of all, identifying the subject and then bringing that subject out. And so in this particular case, we have a couple of challenges, but scoot back for me. With the spider, though, the maker, I thought, did a great job of eliminating those distractions on the left and right side, focusing on the spider, clarifying the spider with the brightness and detail. I I look at the underside of the spider and just go, ew, because it's not my thing. But I'm very, I thought it was very successful the way they presented it. And then one thing that I thought was also very successful was that the subject is very clear, but since you've got this dark background, leaving the spider webs and having them highlighted here and there bit by bit, I thought was really interesting in this particular image, and I thought added a lot to the overall composition, and gave us more to look at that was interesting. So overall, I felt like this was a very successful image and edit.
March to the volcano.
You want to show me the original? The original is kind of washed out and needs some help and needs some color. Without the title, this image would be lost because you wouldn't really know what you were supposed to be looking at. But with the enhancement and the title, you can see, and you will look into the background and see the people. Go ahead to the completed image. See the people in the background up on the mountains moving up towards to see the volcano. So that's well done. I would like to see a little more of the people in the distance instead of having to hunt for them. But once you start looking in the distance, there's one distraction up on this real flat ridge line that just, every time I look at it, it grabs my attention. But nicely processed image. Go ahead, Steve.
Blue.
Okay, that's mine. Okay, so after living in the Bay Area for 20 years, I do know where this was taken. Can't say that I ever shot that shot, but I would say that the person used mask layers in this to separate everything properly and very nicely. I mean, all of a sudden you get to see the lights on the side of the hill that are underneath the roadway. Those are actually, it's a tunnel slash roadway that is being lit up. And they pulled the sky out nicely. It was a very low contrast image. And there's actually enough separation and everything that you can actually see the photographer standing on the jetty. The only, yeah, it's
He's there.
It's just about at the second tower. Yep, there you go. That's
Right.
That's it. He was lost in the dark, or she was lost in the dark earlier. So yep, you can barely see it there. And there's enough separation in the water now between that and the jetty. From a cropping standpoint, the only thing I would have suggested was to give more of the south end of the bridge down there where the lights are at the far left-hand side of the frame. But that's, the maker wished to do it that way. I'm not going to argue with them. So very well done. Thank you.
And with my second one, show us the other one, Stephen. Okay, so go back. So clearly a challenge when it comes to editing, coming up from such a dark image, yay digital. But I think the maker was very successful in bringing this to life. We're either sunrise or sunset, obviously golden, well, probably blue hour, somewhere there in that cusp. But I think the maker was very successful in bringing this to life and giving us something to look at here, bringing color out in the sky, and also providing detail in the shadows, especially with the ridge on the upper left, and then the rocks here on the left and on the very right. Other things I think that were very successful here was the choice of the color saturation in the water. I think it's a very convincing shade of blue, even though it's probably probably not that blue in reality, but it works for me, and I think it's lovely, and it also gives this nice color theory contrast with the orange sky, you know, so I think that works to a treat. That's wonderful. And then also highlighting the blue in the reflected areas up front, I thought was really quite nice. And then the detail in the clouds I thought was great, brought out just enough. A lot of people like to whine about images needing a true white and a true black. I don't know if there's a true white here. There are some bright spots between the middle cloud and the top, and then that one pool in the bottom. I think they're bright enough for me because I want to feel like it's sunset or sunrise, you know, so I feel like I feel like it's a very successful image, a very successful edit again, and I brought it to life for me. So yeah, kudos.
A funny moment.
Let's look at the original one early here. When you're asked to take pictures of family, you have a real challenge because you don't control the environment and you probably don't control your subjects. So processing this image, the maker did a quite nice job. Go ahead to the processed image, Stephen. Got rid of some distractions for us. Got rid of distractions in the lower left and the upper right. Could have probably burned down the microwave, the stainless steel a little bit. And could have dodged the gentleman's pants to make them a little brighter. But given what I assume to be the situation, this is nicely processed. Of course, you could ask the people to open their eyes, but they're probably dodging the strobe. This does look a little bit lit just from the fall off in the background, but nice processing. So, I think it was all good. Let's see what the musicians play and sing with their eyes closed.
Okay. Right.
Two images.
So we got two images. Second first. Second place goes to Cody Addison with Cowboy Ruckus. Cody with us?
So this is on a road trip in New Mexico. I forgot what I think.
Microphones.
So we were on a road trip out to towards Arizona. So this was in New Mexico, and I just thought it was a cool scene. So I pulled over and had the family in the car, so got out and we sat around and took a few shots with it, and did the best I could. It was really, it was in the middle of the day, so it was really bright and bad lighting and stuff. So that's why it was underexposed, because I was trying to not blow things out. So anyway.
Cool.
Thank you. First, this goes, has to do with permeation.
Santa here?
Anna, ask you.
No.
No, okay. Nicely done, and it's like somebody going up next year.
Yeah.
And people choice.
Let's look at what the, bronze goes to Leslie Chapman on the funny moment. Silver goes to Anna Askew on the blue. And gold goes to Anna Askew for permeation. Wow. Looked like the people agreed with the judges.
They were right.
Here we go, intermediate. 62 images. Quick run, does somebody have a microphone so I can yell into it? All right, here we go. African fish eagle flyby. Watcher. Fishing. Dragonfly. Silver and black. Lake Travis. I don't think it looks like that anymore. Waterfall. Monarch. Godafoss, Iceland. After the rain. Wash day. This is the after. It'll come back up again the before. Shoreline at dusk. Agave in moonlight. Chevrolet Apache. Looking forward to spring. Two bugs on a flower. Anthony. Floating fantasy. Date night in Munich. Or as the Germans say, München. The Wait. Cats in Greece. Passion flower. And B. Rug maker. Elvis has nothing on me. Kenzie. The Stair. Puffin. Wash Day. Ghost. Watching You. Magenta Beauty. No, that's it. All right, here we go with the critiques. African Fish Eagle Flyby. No takers? Watcher. Fishing. Dragonfly.
This image just grabs your attention. This image just grabs your attention when you first look at it. And then as you look a little more, there's just all the detail in the wing, the backlit wings. The issues with the image are a lack of sharpness in the eye and the perch. The eye alone, if you had some sharpness in that, it would be very nice. But I understand this is a difficult frame to get captured and get in your system. Let's look at the, yeah. You see the backlit, but it's got a plain blue sky. The sky has been replaced. So the editing has really brought this image up to a nice image to show. And there's work to be done in the capture to have the detail in the eyes. The maker may want to consider shooting with a flash when you have an environment like this where you'd like to have more depth of field. Go ahead, Stephen.
Silver and black. What used to be Lake Travis.
This one's mine.
Okay.
Okay, so. Go to the before, please. Yeah, so about the edit, I think the edit is successful. It brings, I think, the overall image to life. Go back now. Thank you. Obviously working with some very dark hillsides, properties, etc., and wanting to put some life into the pardon? Oh, I need to use my conference call voice. Got it. Okay. So I think that trying to moderate that here. I think the edit is very successful in bringing life to the dark areas and adding color to the sky and to the water. What I am not sure is successful is I'm not sure what the subject here is. I know the title is Lake Travis, but we're not looking at Lake Travis. We're looking at, well, I guess we are looking at Lake Travis, the town, I guess, not the water per se. So I'm not really sure what we're supposed to be looking at when it comes to the land. I see a McMansion over on the left. It's kind of off by itself, and that tends to capture my eye. The sky, it's interesting. The horizon, the choice was put in the middle. The sky is interesting. There's lots of clouds, and it's very bright. There's very bright spots and lots of texture in the clouds. And then the water, we've added that golden color to the water to act as a reflection. But we've got a couple boats down there that I'm not really sure what the purpose of the boats is. The walkway on the right from the house down to the pier is interesting, but then we've got all these buildings behind it. So I'm not really understanding what the maker is trying to show us. So and maybe that's on me, and that's fine. Edit wise, I think lots of success here. Subject wise, composition wise, less so for me. But kudos to the skill. Yay.
Waterfall. I'll claim this one, Stephen. Let's go to the original. This is the original for this, and it was shot in a portrait view with the waterfall pretty well centered up, which is probably not the premier choice for landscape because it forced the waterfall into the center. And there are distractions present, and I assume the maker realized that the image was going to take some processing to get something nice. Back to the processed image. The processed image looks a little bright here on the screen. I don't remember it as being overly bright. I like the effort that went into removing the center distraction. There's a couple of other little distractions that are picked up, but I just feel like I'm crowded in around the waterfall as I look at this. Of course, the capture and the shutter speed were nice because it's not cotton candy, but it's not frozen water. So nicely done. Next, Stephen.
Monarch. Godafoss, Iceland. After the rain. Lost Day. This is the after. Shoreline at dusk.
Okay. That was mine. Yeah, so we've got a pretty low contrast, lackluster image with the moon. The moon is almost overexposed in this. There's no detail or lack of detail in the foreground. There are buoys there that are just kind of look like more like rocks in the water than they are buoys. And there are people on the jetty on the right-hand side of the frame. So it's kind of like, where are they? So if you'll go to the next, the finished image. Oh, that's okay. So that's the last. Okay, okay. So this is, yeah. So in this one, so they pulled out. Wow, on my screen it was a lot better. Yeah, sorry. But the buoys now have some highlights to them. The water has some shimmer to it. The moon has now been pulled out. The only thing that I can see as an artifact is on the hill in the background. There's a little bit of haloing around that hill. So be careful when you're working that in the future. It's a difficult thing to get rid of, but it is possible to do. And then I like the cropping on this one. The other one was, just way too much foreground and sky. Move the water into a lower third, basically, position. So very nice. And now and again, when you look at it on your own screen, you can see the people on the right-hand side. There's actually activity going on that is now visible in that screen, in that picture. Thanks.
Agave and moonlight.
It's just mine. So let's see before. Okay, so I'm not sure it's actually an agave, but it's a succulent of some sort, and it's cool. I'm a sucker for these kinds of plants. I think they're very interesting. So this one caught my eye. So edit-wise, go back to the edit, please. Edit-wise, I think this was successful on a number of levels. First of all, by title, Agave and Moonlight, the maker was going for a nighttime shot, giving the idea that moonlight's illuminating the agave rather than sunlight. And the whole blue thing works for me. I feel like, okay, I think we were successful there. and I don't have any complaints with that. I feel like the maker did a good job with the crop. In the original on the left, there was some flaw on the leaf there. The stuff at the bottom is unnecessary. What we care about are the lines and the spines on the leaves. And so by cropping in from the bottom and a little bit on the left and doing some editing, what we have is some very nice lines and pokey points and shapes. And we've gotten down to what I think the maker wanted us to see on the plant. And so I would call that a very successful edit as well as a composition. I think there are layers here that work well. So yeah, I would give this a solid thumbs up.
Chevrolet Apache. Looking forward to fall, no, spring.
Spring, yeah, that one's mine. So let's go to the, yeah, that one, the original. So nice set of pastels. I like the pastels in this. It's really beautiful. The pink flowers, I'll call it a blue bird because my wife gets mad at me if I try to pick a different name for blue. So so there are a couple of branches that are distracting, and they cross over the back of the bird and then across the lower back of it as well. And so if you can go forward. Oops, here we go. So those branches have been taken out very nicely. They blended in whatever way they were taken out with the remove tool. It was done very well. Sharpened up so that we get to see the eye of the bird. We get to see talons that are, very sharp talons grabbing onto the branch. And the color has been very, very nicely and subtly processed to bring out the pinks and the blues and to leave that hint of yellow in the background. So I think it's a very well done image. Congratulations.
Two bugs on a flower. Anthony. Floating fantasy. Date night in a minute. We have a pretty good October fest.
Except they have it in September.
Well, that is.
Well, because they're celebrating October. That's when the beer is ready in September.
Let's look at the original, that one.
The wait.
This one's mine. I'm not sure who's waiting, the bird or the photographer, but a nice opportunity and a nice capture of the bird. Even though I'm not a bird photographer, I prefer dove and quail. The image is nicely processed. You've got good saturation of color. The bird is nice and sharp. I would have liked to have seen a little more room around the bird now that I can see both the original and the bird. There's a little space behind the bird. There's room to get the bird to the further to the right with more space in front of it. And the foreground in front of the bird is missing some of the reflection and color in the water. So you could get that back and have a little better story of the bird. But the processing is quite nice and gotten good color in the bird and in the water. Go ahead, Stephen, that's it.
Cats in Greece. Passion flower and bee. Rug maker. Elvis has nothing.
On
on
me.
it.
It's all about the hair.
Kenzie.
It's mine. So this is, yeah, we'll start with the before. This is interesting in a number of ways. First of all, the maker chose to replace the background. So it's a composite in that respect. And so we're gonna separate the composite from the editing. The light here is, I feel like the light on the model is coming from the camera direction. I don't see any shadows around the jacket on the skin. It looks like it's very flat. I'm sure by design. I'm thinking this is probably shot out in the ghost town near Manor. Let's go to after, please. So say what? Oh, I'm still not loud enough. I'm trying to be kind, but I'll stop. So yeah, so this is a composite, change background. And so let's talk about the editing. So what we've done is we've manipulated the clothing, the jacket, deepened the color, brought out details, which is all very interesting. I think what is not terribly successful here is the lighting on the model and the light in the alleyway don't work for me. I think the color toning does. I think that trying to match the model color and limiting the color palette and the limited color palette in the alley, that came off really well. But the lighting does not for me. And I know normally when you're shooting something like this with a model, you're going to light the model and you're going to have backlight and you want that kind of thing. But I would encourage the maker to consider how to make that appear more successful when you're doing a composite like this, because for me, I just don't think it comes off well. The other elephant in the room is her tan line on her breast. Is just distracting for me. So I'm not a big fan of that. It's like, don't do that. That's just me. But and I think overall the dark areas in the bottom of the image are lacking a level of detail that I think maybe they could have. But I'm not looking at it close on my monitor, so I can't tell for sure. I'm just feeling like from here, that was one thing I think that was less successful for me. So yeah, I think there's room for improvement here. There are some solid wins and some room.
The stair. Puffin.
The other half wash day.
Wash day, the other half. Ghost. Watching you. Magenta beauty.
Yep, mine. Okay, if you go to the, yeah, thank you. It's a lovely portrait of a flower. It appears to be slightly, just ever so slightly, overexposed because the petals are very bright. And the center is a touch soft. So when they process this, the maker process this, I think if you'll go to the final, again, I think on your monitor at your house, it stands out magnificently. The softness of the petals is there. The exposure has been adjusted properly. Colors are coming out that we didn't see in the original, which makes it even stand out more, especially on the edges. And it basically looks like a carbon copy of what what Gary was trying to teach us 2 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, to use various tools. And then the dropping in of the background, this doesn't, well, from my angle, I don't know if it's vignetted all the way around, if everybody can see that in the room, but the corners are vignetted. And so it makes this stand out. I think it's just an outstanding, and by the way, they sharpened it up. And so the center of the flower is now sharp. I think it's just an outstanding image. And I think they did an excellent job of both compositing a background and the processing of the flower itself.
All right. What the judges have to say.
All right, here's the microphone.
We got a bunch of honorable mentions. All right. Honorable mention, The Stair, Donna Smith. Honorable mention, Looking Forward to Spring, Ty Lehman. Honorable mention, The Wait, Donna Smith. Is this the same bird? Honorable mention, Monarch. And the last honorable mention, Godafoss, Iceland, Arlie Pfeiffer. Third place, Waterfall, John Chatham. Second place, Shoreline at Dusk, Evelyn Bunton. And where was this? Evelyn? Greek Islands.
And those buoys that you're talking about, that was my leading line. Yeah.
And first place goes to Wash Day. Yeah. By Luis Schubert. Lois.
This was taken down at, I'm trying to think the name of the place.
Oh, the buggy bar.
The Buggy Bar. Yes, in Blanco. Yes, thank you. Thank you.
That's the after.
And so we were taking pictures of all, it's an interesting, really interesting place to photograph. You should all go down there. So they had all these old artifacts in this one room here, and I love this wringer washer because I remember them from the dark ages. So I have ortoned this image because I like to see old stuff ortoned, plus trying to block out as much of the background as I possibly could.
Okay. All right, let's see what the people had to say. Bronze goes to Date Night in Munich, Ty Lehman. Silver goes to Rose Epps, Magenta Beauty. And gold goes to Rose Epps, Watching You. Well, people didn't agree with the judges this time. All right. Advanced. All right. First one, Molten Barn. Right, then left. Fan dance. Rocco leather. Good morning downtown. There go the rustlers. Water lily mood. Sand dune. And camel cuddles. Yep, you can read them.
So Molten Barn, I'm going to read the judge's comments. I am enjoying the edits done to this image. The crop employed brings the barn and snowfield to the forefront. I don't miss the parts of the sky that were cropped out, as this element is still predominantly shown. The detail within the barn have been enhanced nicely as well. Finally, in your edits, the grayish hues of the snow have been dealt with effectively. I do feel that the snow is a bit overly bright though, and some of the native snow detail is lost. Darkening and adding a bit of contrast may restore some of this detail, adding a bit more interest to the presentation. One might also consider further cropping in just a bit from the right, as there's a lot of empty space here that does not add a lot to the image.
Right, then left.
The edits applied changes significantly the story. I'll try one more time here. The edits applied changed significantly the story behind this image. In the unedited image, the image presents a point in time during this event, while in the edited image, it's more about the progression of this writer through the course. Both visions are acceptable, just different. I do like the presentation within the edited image. The 6 images cleanly show us the different attitudes the writer takes in completing his S-curve maneuver. You did a good job with your compositing, and I appreciate the effort spent in including the writer's shadow in your composites. Am I loud enough? Yes.
Fan dance edited.
The edits employed effectively transforms this image into a more artistic and moody presentation. The tonal difference between the background and the bird in the final image successfully displays the feathers of this critter and imparts a greater sense of depth. This is truly a different and striking image. Well done. I do find that the body of the bird is still a bit dark though, and I might lighten the body feathers just a bit. Not as bright as the wing feathers though. Another artistic modification one might consider is to add a bit of a brighter glow or halo around the bird on the water behind the body and the wing. This might tend to add a bit of implied interaction between the bird and its environment. This would be a rather subtle effect, but one worth considering with this advanced presentation.
Rocco Leather Factory.
The edits performed really complete the story that the initial image started to convey. Enhancing the colors and bringing forth the shadow detail were wise and effective choices. The crop also focuses our attention upon the areas that are most important. I am wondering, though, if the color enhancement might be a bit aggressive here. If the color saturation was diminished slightly, the story might be effectively conveyed in a bit more realistic manner. Maker's choice, though. Finally, might I suggest that you darken the vats on the left edge of the image some?
Good morning downtown.
Here, your edits really make some significant improvements. Getting rid of some of the unneeded empty space and straightening the architectural lines were wise choices. Bringing up the exposure in the building face also addressed some of the exposure challenges within this shot. What is as important, though, is what you left in the shot. Retaining and enhancing the sunspots and reflections maintain some of the more compelling aspects of this image. Finally, I am enjoying the slight complementary color that was added to the sky. Nice job.
There go the rustlers.
In this image, you really have emphasized that the silhouette tells the story. The cropping and leveling here effectively reset the scene as intended, and your darkening of the silhouettes reinforces their role in the presentation. Doing the latter is not without some cost, as some of the atmospheric impact of the dust within the image has been diminished in your final version. I am wondering if a more effective balance between these atmospheric contributions and the depth of your silhouettes might be attained. Something to consider.
Water lily mood.
I really am enjoying the artistic effects of your edits impart the image. Cropping down from the top and placing the bloom off center were both rather effective. I think that the cleanup employed within the bloom to simplify the image was also very effective, as was the texture added to this presentation. I am uncertain if I like the extent that you place the bloom off center, losing a significant part of the bloom. I appreciate the more artistic effect this has, but personally, I find that this effect overshadows the other elements of the presentation. To me, this imparts more attention to the image than is needed or desired, and detracts from many of the other artistic effects within the image. Again, this may be more of a personal observation, but one I would be remiss if I neglected making.
Sand dune.
The edits performed really changed the story contained within the initial image. While the first image highlights the environment and the different dunes present, the latter focuses upon the structure and appeal of a few selected dunes. Both stories are compelling and or appropriate. The latter image is both brighter, more intense, yet simpler in its presentation. The composition created by the crop allows the highlighted dunes to impart a sense of flow to the presentation. This image was a challenge in terms of exposure to capture, with some of the native detail being lost in the dune exposure. Adding a bit of contrast to the scene may restore some of this detail. This latter step should be done in moderation, though, so as not to disrupt the interesting balance between the detail within the dunes and the smoothness of the surrounding sands.
Camel cuddles.
The edited image is by far the superior image. Your crop was effective in presenting the main subjects, allowing these elements to predominate the image. Additionally, your exposure corrections bring out the detail within the subjects and allows many of the more interesting aspects of this image to emerge. The only modification I might suggest is to leave a little more sand between the camel's nose and rider's foot and the bottom. As shown, the bottom crop appears to be a bit aggressive and adds a bit more attention than is required. Nice job, though.
Walking the runway.
This was a wonderful image to start with, and your edits serve to further enhance it. I am appreciating the cleanliness of the presentation and the clean background behind the subject. The slight crop change in the image aspect ratio does emphasize the main subject a bit more. The detail within the image is nicely displayed, but could be enhanced further by adding a bit more micro contrast. To my mind, in macro shots such as these, the detail is one of the wow factors. Nice job.
All right. Thank you. So. Here are the judges' choices. Third place, fan dance, Dennis Bosserman. Second place, Bill Bunton, right then left. And first place also goes to Bill Bunton for Moulton Barn. Was this taken in the summer
Of course.
in Wyoming?
Yes,
Okay.
I probably worked harder for that image than any image I've ever captured. It was snow. It was a 1.5 mile walk in 6 to 8 inches of snow. When I got there to shoot that image, I was late getting there and just had time to set up a tripod, say I'm not going to try to get around the fence. I'm going to include the fence, and I'm going to shoot 5 brackets of HDR and be gone. And by the way, I played with this afterwards, and I entirely agree with a tighter crop. Get the tree on the right-hand side out of it, and it's a much stronger image. And number 2 there is 9 frames that I took from a burst where the bikes were overlapped. And every frame has at least one adjustment layer in it to make the track match, so that you don't see where the images were brought in and blended in.
Well, you got the shadows too.
I'm surprised you could isolate them each time.
All
That's
right.
impressive to me.
Z9.
Hmm?
Z9.
Now the people's choice.
People say.
People went a totally opposite direction.
Oh, apparently.
Water lily mood, Gary Hook, bronze. Topaz,
Hmm?
topaz.
Yeah, lots of, sorry. Quickly, we forget. So this was taken actually out in San Angelo. Mark Lasote and I did a field trip, last year or 2 years ago. And so I just got in under the window with this one. Highly recommended, although this was taken with a 500 mm lens because you can't get close to them. But yeah, I talked this and then kind of thought about what I wanted to do with it. And so there's some painting effects in this. There's texture as well. And then and despite what the judge isn't sure about, the crop is what I think makes the image. Personally, I like it this way. I've had lots of positive comments on that. So I'm sticking with my story.
Silver, Louis Abulafia, Morocco Leather Factory.
It's a pretty small experience. I don't want to go explain this. You got it.
And gold goes to Nick. Camel Cuddles.
I think this is 4 square miles of sand dunes, the rest of it's casting block. But this was one of the camel drivers, and the camels were taking this out to our camp for the night. Dusk and very picturesque.
All right, congratulations all. And thank you. Next month, it opens up tonight at midnight is open theme. So make sure you get your bird photos in.
Same for you and Stephen.
Huh?
Get your aluminum bird photos in.
Or Milky Way photos.
Folks, thank you. We're going to shut down the video now, and if the ones present have any questions to answer or to ask, we'll be glad to answer them. Thank you.
All right.